Hello, welcome to this session today. Today we'll be talking about data governance and admin strategy. So before we dive in, first, hi, I am Kat Catini. I am a senior product owner here at Quickbase and oversee really all things governance, the roadmap, and parts of the functionality. And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today. So for the agenda, what are we going to be talking about? This is what it's going to look like today. So first, we'll start at the very beginning, talk about governance framework. Outside of data governance, just our general Quickbase governance framework. We'll then go one level deeper and talk about data governance. What is it? Why should you be thinking about it? Why should you form a strategy around data governance? And then lastly, we'll talk about how you can implement data governance in your Quickbase realm and how we have tools and functionality to help with that. So before we move into the presentation, starting with the governance framework, these are the key takeaways from today. We'll go into each of these points much more deeply, but these are the three main points that we want to talk about today. And that's firstly, data governance is a core component of a fully governed Quickbase environment. We know it's crucial to having a fully governed Quickbase realm. It's important, it's part of our center of excellence. We'll cover all of that, but we really do believe it's a core component to a fully governed Quickbase realm. Secondly, we know that data governance strategies, in order to be successful, must include both IT and the line of business to make sure that works. So we'll talk about different models for setting up your data governance and just your governance framework in general. But generally, we do recommend that is shared between IT and the line of business. And we'll go into that in more detail. And then thirdly and lastly, we'll also talk about how Quickbase functionality can act as a tool to help you implement your data governance strategy. So we have different tools, functionality, service offerings. We'll talk about all of those and how that can help you have a successful data governance strategy. So those are our key takeaways. Now let's dive right into it. Start with the governance framework. Again, start at the very beginning, talk about why this is important and what our governance framework looks like here at Quickbase. So first, what is the Quickbase governance framework, also known as our Center of Excellence? And really, again, it's a framework or a plan or a program that helps you manage and administer your Quickbase efforts, really focusing on governance ideas. We suggest that all customers, no matter what your Quickbase looks like, what use cases you have inside of Quickbase, number of applications that you have, we recommend for all customers that you set up a center of excellence to make sure that your realm is really being fully governed and can roll out and scale in a responsible and successful way. We see that leading organizations, our customers that lean on the center of excellence, also known as the COE, really do this to make sure that their digital transformation efforts are rolled out smoothly. Using Quickbase, using a low-code platform really is all about that digital transformation and being able to develop and move rapidly. And so setting up a center of excellence, make sure that is all done. It's well received and it's also rolled out smoothly as you scale. And then lastly, creating an effective center of excellence, COE model, will give you that framework to grow that digital transformation, but then also more importantly, improve operational agility across your organization, which again is what Quickbase is all about. We want to increase that operational agility and allow you to move quickly when you develop and create new applications. Center of Excellence is core to that, working out successfully, especially as you grow your Quickbase environment and scale your applications and users and use cases and all of that. So really crucial as Quickbase grows, as you can see. This is what the Quickbase governance framework or our Center of Excellence looks like. And it's made up of 5 pieces here. And you can see all of them here. We see our customers generally pick and choose what makes sense for them in terms of what pieces of the Center of Excellence that they decide to implement. Some may implement some pieces, some may not implement other pieces. But in general, there are 5 pieces to a full Center of Excellence. You can see them here, but those include first, application lifecycle management. Secondly, measuring value, which is all about making sure you're getting value from the Quickbase tool and it's helping with your use cases. Thirdly, setting up training and education so your builders, users, and even administrators understand how to use Quickbase. Fourthly, setting up a community so users and builders have the ability to talk to each other and learn from each other about how to use Quickbase. And then lastly, the fifth, right in the middle here, is the security policies. And this really is the core of the Center of Excellence and what ties it all together. And then although I mentioned security policies last year, it may be potentially the most important part of the Center of Excellence because this is where the administrative portion comes in, as well as where data governance comes in. So in terms of data governance and what we're talking about today, this lives right in the middle of the Center of Excellence, is all about making sure your data is secured. And again, a crucial part of the Center of Excellence and a fully governed Quickbase instance. Also want to talk about the bottom pieces of functionality with the security policies here. So we'll dive deeper into Audit Log today, advanced encryption, and data classification. But all of this functionality is great ways to have those security policies in your Center of Excellence. And the functionality we'll be talking about today is specific to the data governance. So again, there are many more sessions that talk about the Center of Excellence in more detail. I recommend heading to those if you want to learn about it here, but did want to mention that this framework really is the basis of all things governance inside of Quickbase, and that does include the data governance, which we'll be focusing on today. That being said, taking a look at that Center of Excellence, it's a great program. Again, something we suggest all customers take a look at and set up in their Quickbase realm. But another important portion of the Center of Excellence is also figuring out who is going to lead that Center of Excellence and really drive it to success in the Quickbase environment. So without an owner, the Center of Excellence is not quite as powerful, and it may not have the same effects as you want if it does have an owner with it. And there are different ways for the Center of Excellence to be owned. So again, other sessions will go into this in much more detail, but do want to talk about how we believe that a Center of Excellence should be owned by both the business, the line of business, as well as the IT. There's different levels of which group is involved. We can have a business-led, a balanced, or an IT-led, really depending on what you and your business need. But we do recommend that both of the parties are involved in Quickbase to make sure that Center of Excellence works for both parties and allows Quickbase to be governed successfully while still being able to move rapidly. In terms of data governance, we do look at a balanced, right in the middle setup to be the best setup for a data governance strategy with a defined owner. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit of detail as well. So I wanted to highlight the governance framework, what it's all about, why it's important in terms of data governance. And now we'll head right into what data governance is all about and talk about that specifically in more detail. So what is data governance? Data governance, essentially, if you can put it in one sentence, is a crucial area that your IT administrators in Quickbase, or really any software, any platform that you're using, need to consider as they roll out applications. And they need to consider they're ensuring the correct access and security to an organization's data. So that's what data governance is really about. And the last part of this, which is making sure there is correct access and security to an organization's data, is crucial and the most important part of data governance. That can include different actions that are taken on the data by users, but making sure the correct users can see the correct data and vice versa. That's really what data governance is all about. And a little bit more detail, how can we define data governance? And really, why is it important? Well, data governance, we've already talked about this. It's an integral part of a comprehensive governance strategy. We just talked about the Center of Excellence, but that's still true. In terms of the definition of data governance, basically, if there is a technology stack and it's a low-code application, or as I mentioned, maybe not, maybe it's another technology that you're using, whatever it may be, you're going to want to make sure that there is proper access and security to the data on those platforms. And that's even more true in a low-code application as those are moving more quickly, the innovation is moving more rapidly, and you want to really make sure there's proper access and security to that data. When we talk about proper access and security, we're talking about users being able to view the data, delete the data, modify the data, and add the data. So you're going to want to make sure that users have the correct access to do each of those to specific data to make sure that it aligns with your security policies. So together, those responsibilities that are going to be outlined in your standards and policies are what we refer to as data governance. And then lastly, the technical controls. So the implementation, which we'll talk at the end here, of how you can implement that in Quickbase, are commonly referred to as data management. So we'll talk about your data management, the tools that we have to help you implement that, but those are the definitions for data governance and why they're important to your organization's data. But now, don't just take that from us. We've highlighted how important data governance is. I've talked about that quite a lot here and how it's the center of excellence. But really, that's not just coming from us. That's also coming from analysts and the market as well. So here, a quote from Gartner, the analyst, as recent as September 2020, talking about how important it is for data and analytics leaders to make sure that their assets are well governed, their data and analytics assets specifically, are well governed to enable business strategy and enterprise priorities. So Gartner clearly seeing and stating the importance of data governance and data security, and speaking about this here as recent as last September. Speaking of Gartner, they had a whole summit about this as well. I believe it was a virtual summit, but Gartner had a summit talking about the importance of data governance. And again, all these quotations that you see here came right from that Gartner summit, talking about the importance of data governance. And so I'll let you read these quotations that Gartner has here, but Gartner is really highlighting how important it is to control and understand your data in order to improve business outcomes. Definitely something they're highlighting. They also highlight the ownership aspect that we talk about here in the second quotation, which is all about making sure you're rallying stakeholders, which include both IT and the line of business that Gartner is calling the business, to be clear on the roles that they play. So not only is Gartner talking about the importance of data governance, how it needs to be secure and controlled, but also in how in a data governance strategy, there needs to be a meeting between the two stakeholders here, the IT and the line of business. And lastly, Gartner also talks about the urgency of setting up a data governance strategy. So they also mentioned at the summit, now is the time to lay down the must-have governance foundations for data and analytics success. So again, extremely important, urgent from Gartner, they're talking about right now, but just also want to talk about, it's not just Quickbase talking about data governance, it's also the analysts and it's in the market here as well. The last thing I'll mention is Gartner also had a survey where they mentioned 42% of those surveyed of data and analytics leaders do not assess, measure, or monitor their data or analytics governance here. So although we're talking about it, Gartner is talking about it, 42% of those leaders are still not having a fully fledged data governance strategy and monitoring their data and analytics governance. So a little bit of a difference between the importance and the urgency versus those really executing on a data governance strategy. And that's really why we're here today, to help you form your data governance strategy, talk about how important it is, but also show you how you can execute that inside of Quickbase as well. So with that being said, we'll talk about specifically how you can implement data governance in Quickbase. We do want to help you form that strategy. And we also believe that we have the tools and functionality native to Quickbase to allow you to have a successful data governance strategy as well. So we can dive right into that and talk about that here. So in terms of implementing data governance in Quickbase, you really want to make data governance a part of your overall governance strategy. That's crucial. You don't want it to be an afterthought. As you saw in that center of excellence, it's right in the middle of that security policies area. It really should be an integral part and built into really all of the other parts of your center of excellence that you have. Based on talking to some previous customers who've set up data governance policies inside of their own Quickbase realm, we have some best practices, or really boiled it down to 3 steps here that will make implementing data governance strategy as easy as possible. So first, we really recommend that you select a data governance owner and enforcer. So as we mentioned, having ownership of the Center of Excellence, again, with those different models, whether it be IT-led, business-led, or 50-50 shared, that's crucial to having really any governance strategy, but especially data governance strategy. Again, we recommend that balanced 50-50 shared model because the realm administrators, IT, care about the security of that data, but users and builders are using that data and accessing that data and needing that data to do their job every single day. So you're going to want to select a specific data governance owner and enforcer, whether that be an individual or team, and then have that relationship be 50-50 between IT and line of business. We do suggest that and see that being most successful when implementing a data governance strategy. Secondly, we also recommend that you document and use governance processes your builders and users can follow. So again, with any governance practice, we recommend that is documented, potentially becomes a part of training or ends up in the community, those two other parts of the Center of Excellence. But you also want to use governance processes your builders and users can follow. That's specifically because in data governance, your users and builders need to view data and potentially secure and sensitive data maybe every single day. The builders and users need to access that data to do their job. They can't be apart from that data. So you're going to want to have processes for them to deal with sensitive data that they can follow and understand and be clear about because they are the individuals touching and using the data every single day. And we'll specifically show you in our data classification functionality that we have how you can alert the builders and users of those policies in an easy way. So we'll talk about that. And that's definitely crucial to having a successful strategy here. And then lastly, to round it out, we also recommend that you use Quickbase functionality as tools in your tool belt, to execute on your data governance strategy. So we have a number of pieces of governance functionality. Again, saw that on that previous slide across the bottom. Today, we'll talk about 3 pieces of functionality that are specific to data governance strategy and how you can use them to execute on your strategy. So that being said, let's dive into those tools, talk about them, and show you where they are in the product. You can use this Quickbase functionality to execute your strategy, and we recommend that you turn these on and use these in order to do that. And the 3 pieces of functionality that we'll talk about today are first, data classification. So relatively new functionality that we have, we'll dive into in the most detail. Secondly, we'll talk about audit logs, so a way to view the data and understand the changes. We'll talk about audit logs briefly. And then lastly, we'll talk about native data encryption that Quickbase has, as well as the advanced offering, so you can make sure your data is protected and secured as well. So all 3 important parts, and we'll first dive into data classification. So first, what is data classification? And what's the functionality? What's the overall idea behind classifying data? And where does it fit in an overall data governance strategy? So we'll start. Firstly, an important component of data governance is making sure that you have what we call a data classification matrix. So a matrix, we'll show you what one looks like. And we have a few examples and some native matrices that we have built into data classification. But essentially what a matrix is a list of labels that you have that outlines the security and sensitivity of the data. So we'll talk about those labels, but those labels are clear, concise, and let everyone know really what the sensitivity of that data is. So that's what the matrix is. In the matrix, each organization has that standardized method to classify based on data sensitivity. Those are the labels that we talked about. That should be a standardized list that you have in Quickbase and potentially across other platforms that you're using. But it does create a standardized method to make sure you're labeling data uniformly and standardized across your different platforms. And then with that matrix and those labels that you'll attach to those applications, that will inform administrators, or the administrators will be tagging those applications and understanding what type of data lives in each of those applications. And users and builders with access to that data will also see how the data will be treated and secured. So through the matrix, that is a core part of the data governance. You'll tag your applications, and then that in turn informs administrators and users with access to data how the data should be treated and secured. So that's very high level. We'll dive a little bit deeper to talk about data classification, the functionality, and show you an example of a matrix here on the right-hand side. So data classification in general is a process of grouping and labeling data based on risk categories. So you can see the labels over here in this matrix that we have. We've created these different labels, and then we'll tag applications with those labels based on the risk categories or the sensitivity of the data. What we're looking at here on the right-hand side is specific functionality to Quickbase that can provide you with information so you can better understand your data. This functionality lives right inside of your admin console under your policies, where you can add your different labels, tag them to applications, modify both the name and the description. But the ultimate goal of that is to help you better understand your data. And then lastly, again, talking about the theme of making sure your users and builders understand your governance, your data governance processes and strategies that you have. This functionality here will also provide application level visibility to your users and builders, clearly showing them the label and the description in each app that they visit that has been labeled with this classification. So we want to help the realm administrators show them all of the classifications, of course, but also show users and builders because they are the ones that are viewing the data and interacting with the data every single day. So that's data classification in a lot of words. I thought it would be helpful to also show it here in a visual and show you what it looks like before data classification, potentially in Quickbase, and then after data classification. So before, on the left-hand side, you have a number of different apps. Maybe you're not exactly sure what type of data lives in each application, and there's a question mark there. Just a visual to show you. It may be a little bit unclear for administrator or user or builder what type of data is in each application. And each of these circles here represents that application. After the data classification, so after this arrow on the right-hand side, all of the apps have been classified, either as internal use, confidential, or private, free labels that we provide natively as a part of the classification, although you can always customize and add your own. You can see the apps are now tagged. You can see what type of data is in each. It's more organized, and you understand the level of sensitivity of the data in the different applications because of data classification. So just a quick visual to show you there what it looks like before and after, and also the preset tags that we have on the right-hand side here. Great, so that is data classification very quickly. Again, that is located in your admin console under policies. If you are on platform plan or any plan above that, you should already see that data classification, and definitely feel free to check it out. Secondly, we'll be talking about audit logs. So audit logs, again, another piece of functionality that can help with data governance. And audit logs are really all about providing visibility and helping you understand what actions are taken on your data. We'll go over audit logs very quickly here. If you do want to see audit logs in more detail, there is a quick hit that has been recorded that will show you what audit logs look like. There's a demonstration and go a little bit deeper into what type of data audit logs show. But we'll cover it very high level in terms of data governance here today. So audit logs, again, they're a crucial part of the Center of Excellence, just like data classification, just like data governance in general, and they can help you have a successfully governed Quickbase instance. So they're important to have if you do want to track your data and understand what actions are taken on your data. Most importantly, audit logs allow you to gain greater visibility into various activities to help with either internal security standards, just understanding what's going on as a realm administrator, or external regulatory compliance pieces here as well. So depending what industry you work in, depending on the regulatory rules you have to store your data by or understand your data or be able to view audit logs on that, that can help with some external compliance pieces there. But audit logs generally will give you greater visibility and understanding into what's happening in your data. So that's another piece why you'd want to turn those audit logs on. And then lastly, specifically, audit logs track a number of different pieces, including user activity, schema changes, but in terms of data governance, audit logs specifically help track data changes within apps, such as adding, deleting, and editing records. So for your data governance policies, if you ever wanted to check out and see what data had been changed, when it had been changed, you can view all of that in audit logs and see that exact information. So we make sure we track that data. You can set up which data you want to track specifically, but that's really a crucial part of data governance is we're able to show you those changes in that data. So very granular there and can help with all of that auditing you may need of your data. So that is audit logs. Very briefly, again, quick hit on that if you do want to go a little bit deeper. This is available in your admin console. Take a look, it's under audit logs in there. And you should have access to that if you are on platform plan or above, the same as data classification. Lastly, the last piece of functionality, again, we'll go over very quickly here is our data encryption. So another part of data governance, of course, is making sure that your users and builders have access to the correct data, but there's also a part of keeping that sensitive data safe and protected by encrypting it. So also a crucial part that goes a little bit deeper into protecting that data, especially against those that you don't want to see that extremely sensitive data. So off the bat, all Quickbase data is encrypted. We have that for all of our customers to make sure that your data is safe and protected. But we also have advanced encryption. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But do want to mention if you don't have advanced encryption, that doesn't mean your Quickbase data isn't encrypted. It's actually quite the opposite. I do want to talk about advanced encryption today because it does allow you more control because you're using a unique encryption key. So two options there. Again, data is encrypted across any plan if you have advanced encryption or not. But if you do want to have advanced encryption for any reason with your own encryption key that's unique to your Quickbase realm, there's also that option as well. So we really care about encryption here. That's why we have the two different options. And that's why I'm talking about it here today. Do you want to mention that the advanced encryption can also help your company, or it can help organizations comply with external regulatory best practices, as well as internal security standards and policies. Again, it does provide that added level of encryption, security, and protection, and it can help you comply, especially with some of those external regulatory policies that you may have to follow. And then lastly, encryption, whether it be the advanced encryption or just the native encryption that we have across the entire platform, we hope it gives you increased confidence and peace of mind to build higher value business critical applications. Because the data is encrypted, you can store that sensitive data in Quickbase. It's safe, protected. It won't be exposed to external individuals. You don't want to see that data. So you do have the ability to build those business critical applications with potentially higher levels of sensitivity on that data. And you can do that confidently because of this encryption. So again, that's encryption. Again, very quickly want to talk about that, but that is another level of data governance and one way to keep your data safe and protected. So with that being said, that's all the pieces of functionality that we have that you can use as tools in your tool belt to set up a data governance strategy. And here we can round out what we talked about today. So again, same key takeaways we saw before, but do want to round out the presentation with these. And if there's anything you take away from this data governance session, these are the three pieces. So again, talked about this frequently, and the analysts also talked about this as well, or Gartner did. Data governance is a core component of a fully and successfully governed Quickbase instance. The Center of Excellence outlines that it's important. Data governance is a core piece of that Center of Excellence, and that will really help you have a successfully governed Quickbase instance as you grow and scale and have more rapid cycle innovation across the platform. Secondly, data governance strategies must have an owner. So talked about this throughout this session here. We believe and recommend that that owner should be both IT and line of business in that 50-50 partnership to execute on that strategy. Similar with other governance practices, as we mentioned, but especially true for data governance, we do recommend a setup of both of those individuals or teams being involved when you set up your data governance strategy. And then lastly, we also talked about the Quickbase functionality that can help provide you with the tools necessary. We talked about our data classification. We talked about our audit logs, as well as the encryption of our data. And there's other tools as well that you can use, but those are the 3 tools we talked about today that can help you with implementing data governance practices. So that being said, thank you very much. I can take any questions and appreciate it. Thank you.